Hello, I am Endlessness and welcome back to Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, and in this video I wanted to give you a Guild Ball 18 guide with some tips and suggestions. But this is on our supported Guild Ball and the boss is Iron Medusa, which is as usual a reskin, but since it's a supported Guild Ball we'll have a sigil face with damage sigils. However, they made this Guild Ball a bit weird because the boss will keep nullifying your command gauge. And if you max it out too fast, you just skip the sigil phase, and this is not something you want to do. So ideally you want to reach command gauge just as you enter the sigil phase, because otherwise the boss will just go straight into overheat, and you miss out on DPS phase with 100% stagger multiplier, and this is not something you ideally want to happen. But yeah, Sid is great here. And it's a Sid Guild Ball and his banner is perfect for it, giving you that extra lightning damage bonus buff. Aerith is also great here with her weapons buffing physical attack and lightning damage, as well as her Abraxas ultimate weapon. Cloud is also the best DPS, but that also should be fine if you pulled on his Monster Hunter crossover weapon. If not, Murasame Cloud also can clear at least the lower stages up to stage 3, which is actually very nice. But I also think Cait Sith could also be useful here if you have his ultimate banner weapon and limit break weapon. I already mentioned the best characters, and I have prepared 3 teams from what I have on my account. And the first team is a bit lower powered, but I think it's more accessible with Murasame Cloud and Sid applying Enfeeble and buffing command gauge, and Aerith buffs physical attack and provides lightning buffs and debuffs. And it works fine, and I managed to clear stage 3 and do around 50% on stage 4. And as I said, it works fine, but Sid's Radiant Lance increases command gauge only by 20%, so you'll need to use quite a lot of AEB to max it out. So in this case, I think Aerith Ever 13 stuff just works much better for it. And also that they increased the outfits in the armor, because now there's a pool of over 20 outfits, and it definitely makes it much easier to get a higher buff level. And so I definitely think they increased it, because in the past it was nowhere near as, I would say, easy. It was much harder. But also Memoria. We don't really have an ideal Memoria, but I think Near Memoria works best. Just ignore the Earth buff, but it increases damage against mechs, and the boss is a mech. So even though you get lower stats, at least it works better for me than other Memoria. And I'm just getting a slightly higher score. But also, there is this new near enemy skill that stuns the boss, and it isn't bad, but I think it would have been much better if it managed to stun the boss and extend the stagger phase while the boss is stunned for those 8 more seconds, so you could do a lot more damage. But because it doesn't, I just think Thunder Blizzard works much better here, because it gives you an amplified next lightning attack if you have it at least at level 6. But the second team is my personal team that I tried first, so I switched Terra for Ever 13 staff to max out the command gauge, and Sid has event weapon to lower physical defense to mid potency, and then Abraxas then lowers all those debuffs to -4. And I was getting around 55-60% on stage 5 with this team, but Cloud's Dragon Quest gear is really needed here, as it applies Enfeeble instead of Sid. And lastly, my personal team that I think I'll settle for, and I have Sephigod instead of Sid, mostly because my Sid isn't great, and Sephiroth works very well as support with Kikui applying damage bonus, which actually affects Cloud, unlike Sid's banner ultimate weapon, which has the same weapon boost as Cloud's fusion sword. Then Murasame to lower physical defense, and I don't have Terra or any other weapon that lowers lightning resistance, so it's just this lightning breach materia, which then gets lowered further by Abraxas. And this team works very well for me, and I'm getting around 80-90% on stage 5, so if you have the adult Sephiroth and don't want to use it, I think this also works very well. Alright, with Murasame Cloud, the opening is really simple. I'm not going to do anything. You can squeeze in 1-2 attacks before this charge attack or this scan hits you, but I'm just delaying it so those debuffs don't expire too fast. So debuff, exploit weakness, and with Sid, and Feeble and PDF debuff. And with Aerith, I'm just going to cast another buff, so it's +3. And with Sid, I'm just recasting those buffs so they last a little bit longer. And now +4. P attack, and with Sid, sure, don't sit on full AB, but I recommend don't use too much of his AB. Oh, this Terror Blast now start buffing, or rather filling command gauge, but don't fill it completely. But also this Mighty Slash, it always targets the character with the highest current HP. So you can manipulate the HP, but now last attack command gauge is full, and now we can start breaking sigils. And on lower stages, don't use any circles. You can, ideally with Aerith, you can just keep buffing if you want to have a limit break ready. But other than this, nothing, because on lower stages there really aren't too many sigils, and you just want to get that 100% stagger multiplier bonus. And if you break too many sigils, and especially use circle, then you break too fast and won't get, 150% damage bonus, so you won't get that in time. And now just a few more attacks I can squeeze in, but also don't forget, always try to pay attention to your buffs and debuffs. So I know that with Cloud I have to reapply exploit weakness or fusion buffs during the sigil phase, or rather when it begins. So don't forget about this. With P attack buffs you can just keep using Aerith's weapon. But yeah, that will be all. And actually I'm quite impressed that Murasame can one-shot stage 3 and, well, do 50% on stage 4. It's a launch weapon really, so it is quite nice, especially if you don't have any other alternatives because they are limited. Alright, Sid. And my Sid is below OB6, so it really hurts me because I have to use this weapon twice because it casts only with low points. And if you have it at OB6, I think it goes already up to high. So be able to do much more progress, much easier, much faster. But with it, because of that, I just have to cast lightning twice before I can move to physical defense debuffs. But also with Aerith, I'm using her outfit C ability. It's only to extend the duration of exploit weakness on Cloud. that's the only reason, same as why I'm using Sid's Banner Ultimate Weapon cast. It's only to extend the duration so Cloud doesn't have to use Fusion Sword again. But, alright, Cloud is fine. And Terra Blast. Now you can use FF13 stuff, because one character always gets stunned, and the character that always gets targeted by the stun is the character with the highest current HP. So if you want to, you can manipulate it. If not, you can just leave it up to your chance. But now with Sid, just keep breaking Exodus. With Cloud, I'm just going to attack and use his ultimate weapon for amplified ability, and now one more cast, stronger cast, and immediately triple summon to get the 30% aside from the big bong damage here. And alright. Almost there. I wanted to recast Aerith's ultimate weapon, so the buffs don't expire, but also you can get haste. So a few more attacks. And we're almost done here. I'm not sure. Yeah, it won't connect. I wish it had Murasame animation speed, because Murasame might be tickling the bosses right now after over 2 years, but the animation is the best animation in the game because you can get off so many attacks. It's so fast. That's, even though Dragon Quest weapon, it isn't slow, but everything feels slow when you have Murasame. But yeah, 65%, so yeah, that's good. Alright, my team. So Lightning Bridge immediately, Masamune and Abraxas, and Cloud's Fusion Sword if you want to. But it's a very fast opening and you have to just switch very fast. But Cloud's Fusion Sword is fine if you do it after the animation, but I try to do Aerith and Sephiroth with Abraxas very fast, so the second cast will be ready by the time we get Sigil Phase. But alright, now we can start doing a little bit more damage. One more Masamune to ensure that the debuffs don't expire. Just in case. And Terra Blast, so FF13 stuff. And now Sephiroth pretty much always gets stunned because he has the highest HP. And alright, Sigil Phase. And because only Sid has Extra boost slot, I think maybe Zack too, so you might have it a little bit easier. But because of that, I just have to keep breaking sigils with everyone. But also, don't forget to cast Aerith's Abraxas second time because you get haste, which is very helpful for this. And one more. Cast, and also, if you manage for Sephiroth not to get stunned, you can activate his overspeed and then you'll do even more damage with the Summon and Slayer. And let's try to do as much damage now. 90%. Yeah. 2 more hits. Would have been much easier if it had Murasame weapon animation. But yeah, that's the whole thing. And yes, although Sephigod is quite unexpected, but I think he usually is a very good support. And especially here with lightning DPS, where Dragon Quest Cloud can apply Enfeeble, then he is even better, so you can use another Limit Break instead of Enfeeble Octa Slash. But yeah, that will be all, so thank you very much for watching, good luck on the guild battle, and in the meantime, I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope to see you next one.